Welcome back, viewers. This is Frederick Norona and our program is Literary Goa, where we talk to authors of books and researchers doing various works on Goa. Today we have with us a guest from FAR, that is Dr. Susana Sardo, a professor at the University of Aveiro in Portugal. She's an ethnomusicologist. We were stumbling over this word. It's a rare profession. She'll tell us what it is all about. This is her book, and I'm so happy to have you with us, Dr. Susana. I know you don't like the doctor title, but Susana. So,
thank you.
I know your story. I won't talk much. I want to listen to you because your story starts in Goa in 1987.
Yeah.
How?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to be here. And yes, I was here in 1987 for making a preliminary research fieldwork for my PhD. I was trying to find out if Goa was a place where I can research music in the perspective of ethnomusicology. So that was my aim in 1987. I was here for 3 months, trying to make a kind of overview of the music landscape or soundscape in Goa.
And then you fell in collision with the Mando, but not only the Mando.
No. Well, the Mando was at the time my main focus, but as a trigger for other things, we may say. So I was when I arrived here. Actually, I felt a little bit lost because for a Portuguese, I was in India, so I was trying to find out Indian music in the way that we think about Indian music as something very far away from our soundscape in Europe. But when I arrived here, it was 87, so many people were pushing me to work on Mando, saying that Mando is our art music, it's the crown of our musical production and musical performance. So I tried to find out what Mando was, and the first time I heard Mando was a huge surprise for me. So I felt, no, I'm not making any. This is not a field for ethnomusicologists because, first of all, I was anti-colonial, and I'm anti-colonial, structural anti-colonial. So when I heard that music, I thought, well, this is Europe in India. So
as a young student in your 20s, you were anti-colonial.
Yes, completely. Yes.
Actually,
I didn't want to come to Goa because I didn't want to be identify as someone who were in Goa trying to find the influences of Portugal in Goa. So Mando was I decided to study Mando. Initially, I didn't want to study Mando because of that very proximity with the European music. And but then I start to when I was living with the families and trying to understand Mando and the history of Mando, especially during the 20th century and the second half of the 20th century, and how Mando was important, for example, for keeping some Goan stories and Goa ways of being in the songs, especially because Goans never sang Mando in Portuguese. So, and this was something that made me curious. So I was trying to find out why musically this musical genre is so close to the West, and at the same time they are singing them they are singing it in Konkani. So I very much think that Mando was a resistance musical genre, because it is a way of keeping in the songs something that Goans didn't want that the colonizer can understand. So at the same time, it was something very close to the musical environment of the Europeans, and you know that the Portuguese tried to erase all the musical practices related to Hinduism and imposed another kind of music here, and it was Western music, especially through the church. So polyphony was here and was implemented and adopted by Goans, which is a huge difference between Goa and the rest of India, where the melody is the main structure of music. Now, there's no harmony in the sense that there's no more than one voice singing different things.
It's very interesting, but it's getting a little bit technical, so we'll go back to the story. And just to tell readers, listeners what's coming, after many years, you've still kept up with your involvement in Goa. You've done your doctorate and you've come back to Goa as a visiting professor to the Goa University, and you've been engaged with Goan culture for many years, a full lifetime in studying all forms of Goan music. But I know I also liked the very nice video that you and your student, or the other way around, created on the Goan music and things like that. We can talk about that, maybe show a small snippet from there. But tell us about Agapito Miranda, who forms a crucial part of your story in Goa.
Yeah, it's a long story. So I knew, that in all countries and parts of country, this is the case of Goa, but in all places during the 20th century, we always find someone who dedicate their life to collect music. We call it usually aficionados, I mean people that are fans and affected by. Aficionados means something related with affects. So people that are affected by someone that they like very much, but at the same time they affect that thing. So it was the case of Agapito. Agapito spent his entire life collecting things.
He was this person from Margao who worked
He was in
Margao and worked as what?
He was from Lotolin, but then he lived in Borda, and he was in Mumbai also working and studying, but then he came back to Goa when his father died, and he was born in 1911. So he dedicated his life he was also a musician and a composer and a photographer and a painter, and so he was a multitask person and very out of the box for his time, because he made their own photographies. For example, he created a dark room in his house, so he made a lot of selfies.
I see.
That he used to wear different clothes and photograph himself. But the music was very important to him, and he collected 1,400 different melodies, and 1,400 are transcribed in his manuscripts. So he created 6 manuscripts.
Wow.
Only with the transcriptions of music from Goa, especially Mando. And these manuscripts also include some of his works, because he also was a composer. He composed Mando, he composed music for the church, like hymns and many things, especially, and also music for choirs. So he was a multitask musician and composer and performer. He performed violin and flute. So in 1987 I tried to find out if there was such a person here in Goa. Everybody talked to me about Agapito, but it was impossible to speak with him. Actually, he was blind. He got a glaucoma, and the last 20 years of his life was completely blind. So in 1992, I finally could talk with him. He asked me, he sent a message calling me to go to his house and to speak with him. So I made the first interview to Agapito in 27 October 1992. And then he called me again for the second interview, and he asked me to take his manuscripts with me and try to publish them in Portugal, because the manuscripts, they have music and they have also ethnographic notes, which is very, very, very rich, okay, very rich information. Ethnographic notes he used to describe the music and also the origin of each music, of each song, and who used to perform the song. And he has many versions of the same song, which was also very, very unique in his time, because at that time the folklorists are were very much concerned about the right version of each song, and he transcribed many versions, which is something that we do today. Okay,
I see.
We used to.
It's a fascinating story, but had it not been for researchers like you, Goa would have completely forgotten this man and his work. Would that be right?
No, I'm
almost.
I'm interested in this, and I hope we can have many.
So how did you
Goans
document it? How did you document his work?
His work. His work. I tried to publish his work in Portugal, but it was very difficult. It's a very expensive publication, and his writings are very, very nice. So it deserves to be published in a facsimile. So he died in 1995. In 1996, I came back to Goa with the manuscripts, and trying to give them back to the family, but the family told me, no, my father trusted you, so please, we also trust.
What an interesting story that
So I took the manuscripts again to Portugal, and finally in 2017 the Fundação Calouste Gulbenkian opened a call for projects related with literature of Portuguese influence. And now, you know, sometimes we have to make a kind of engineering to mask the project. So I applied for that. I thought maybe it's time to have this is an opportunity. So I applied for that, and I get funds. I get funds for digitizing in high quality all the manuscripts. So now we have a open platform. Everybody can see the manuscripts of Agapito, because
online. What's it called?
I have to send you the
roughly, more or less, you search for Agapito.
It's Agapito at University of Aveiro, and because the platform is in our server at University of Aveiro, and now the manuscripts are back to Goa. They are here. We organized an exhibition to show it, because this is a work that Agapito made for the community, not for himself only, because he was interested to share it, keep this, and to share this, and to keep this memory for the future. Amazing. So it's interesting to see this, and the dynamics of music, how music changed in different versions, even the lyrics, and so that's it.
Tell us about your book, Susana.
Well, this book is called Wars of Jasmine and Mogarin, and the main focus is Mandó, but as I told you before, I use Mandó as a trigger to understand music in Goa, and to understand this how Mandó includes also Western influences and Indian influences. And how Mandó can organize also the society where Mandó is performed. Now we have and I'm very lucky, because I have the possibility to make long life field work. Okay, so I
spent your full life virtually
making. Well, I came to Goa almost every year, so I can have a kind of picture how music in Goa is developing. Not only Mandó. The case of Mandó is very interesting. Actually, I have a student now making a research in PhD research. He is a Goan also. Now I have 3 Goan students working with me for PhD and master.
Apart from 1 or 2 Portuguese students.
Yes, I have Portuguese students working in other contexts. Actually, I'm specialized in post-colonial approach and decolonial approaches to music. So I have students who ask me to guide their research, PhD research and master research, working on Cape Verde, on other former Portuguese colonies, always in this using the approach of decolonizing the discourses about music, and see how music can be also an anti-colonial tool, and can be used to decolonize the world. But my main interest is to understand this, how music can organize society, not how music is a reflex of the society, but how music can organize society
as a tool.
As a tool, yeah. And for example, one of my students is now studying the phenomena of the Mendo Festival during the 50 years of its existence.
Okay.
So it's very interesting to see how Mendo Festival changed all over the time, and how Mendo Festival changed Mendo also.
I see.
Yeah, because for some people, the Mendo that is performed now at the Mendo Festival is not the real Mendo, but it is the Mendo that we have now.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see the changes that the festival create in Mendo, and also the changes that the Mendo Festival create in the society, because now we have Hindus performing in the Mendo Festival, and we have people from different social status, different castes. In the past, Mendo was connected especially with high castes, and now we have everybody singing Mendo.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to see these dynamics of how Mendo creates, also how Mendo Festival opens the possibility for more equity, for conviviality between people of different religions and different social status and different parts of Goa. Okay.
I know that your classes at the university, Goa University, are very popular in that sense, and it goes to all places. So the students reach all over the place. Tell us in 2 minutes what you do there over a large period of time.
I work with the students about ethnography of musical practices in Goa. So the idea is to describe these musical practices and understand what is behind them. So when I arrive in Goa, my main focus is to see what is happening now, what is more important now. And for example, last time was Gumot. Gumot was classified as heritage in 2019. So heritage of Goa, no. So a huge movement around Gumot was at the time in different places of Goa. So I invited students, let's go to see performance of Gumot, let's go to describe the Gumot performance and to see the dynamics of this movement. And it was very, very interesting. Actually, I just finished a paper about Gumot. It's called "Finally Our Gumot is a Heritage." It's the title of one.
In English?
Yes. No, I wrote it in English, but then it is to be published in a Spanish book, so they asked me to translate it into Spanish.
Interesting.
That's it.
This
year I'm making with the students a sound ethnography of a feast. So tomorrow we are going to finalize this. The feast in Goa is not only the feast. It starts with the novena, and then there are vespers, and there are many rituals. It starts 9 years before the feast. 9 days before the real feast. So we are going to make an ethnography only with sound. How does the feast sounds? Okay. So it's
ethnomusicology. What does that mean? As we were talking just before the interview, you said this discipline hardly exists in India.
No, it doesn't exist in India. Probably because it has a very colonial origin. So this discipline started in Germany in 1900 and it goes also with the technology of recording music, because in 1877 Edison invented the phonograph, and then the phonograph had it was a very important tool, because it allowed the people at that time, the researchers, to record music and take music with them, okay, to make the research, to analyze, to listen it again. So many researchers from Germany were sent to different parts of the world to record music. And actually, in the phonogram archive in Berlin, we have 30,000 Vox cylinders of music from all different parts of the world, wow. Especially the exotic for their eyes or their ears at the time. So, so there's a huge heritage there. Actually, the phonogram archive is a world heritage because of that, because sound is heritage also. And the first, in many cases, the first sound recording made in different parts of the planet was made by these researchers from yeah. Actually, we are now in the process of repatriating. I have a student, a PhD student, and his PhD is the process of repatriation of the first sounds recorded in Mozambique. They belong to Mozambique, so they need to go back.
But in today's world, you can even recreate and digitize and share. And
yes, of course, we can recreate and digitize and share. But the object is also important, okay? Because the object, the archive are not the sound archives. The objects are also a very important
form of control, or
yes,
a symbol.
Yeah, a symbol. Okay, so this Vox cylinders needs to be in a museum in Maputo, and people had the right to see those objects and to listen the first sounds that were made by with their culture. So the ethnomusicology, the word ethnomusicology arrived in 1950, also in Europe. So the first 50 years of this discipline was called comparative musicology, because they were always comparing European music with the other musics. And then, well, many ethnomusicologists were studying India. So there's a lot of knowledge produced by Europeans and Americans about India. So unfortunately, there are few ethnomusicologists, Indian ethnomusicologists, but they are working outside India. So I think it's important to have these Indians studying their own music and producing knowledge about their own music. And Goa is a very rich context. I think maybe we can start with ethnomusicology in Goa and have a small research group here, having finally Goans researching their own music.
Since you know the field so well, what do you recommend to youngsters wanting to embark on this trail? What should they be looking at when it comes to sound, when it comes to music in Goa?
Well, you know, we have a lot of knowledge produced about Goan music by Goans, but they are mainly lists of songs, okay? Mainly lists of things.
Yeah.
And these lists of things, they are important, of course, but they are only lists. We don't know what they represent. So my advice for those who want to research music in Goa is to try to go deeper and to try to find out what this music represent, what music represent for Goans, how music is important in this context. You know, when we arrive in Goa, we can listen music everywhere. We go to a restaurant and we listen music, a live music. If you go to a restaurant in Europe and you have a live music, you have to pay a lot. Okay, here we have music for free because the musical environment in Goa is very special. Everybody is a musician in the sense, maybe people are not professionals, but they can sing, they can perform an instrument. So this is a very singular environment. So I really believe that this has a very important influence in the way as the society in Goa is organized, and it influences the organization of the society and the creation of some paradigms for Goan culture. So I think this is the way as we need to approach music, to understand, and also to understand how this can be important for self-empowerment of Goan culture. We don't have a sound archive in Goa, for example.
Yeah.
Okay? And it will be very important to have a sound archive here. Even some communities can create their sound archives.
Focusing on what?
Focusing in their music, in the sound environment, and the soundscapes of their activities. For example, labor activities, many things. These sounds, they are sounds that will disappear in 20, 50 years. Okay? Because of the technology, new technologies that came and make disappear some sounds. And sound is memory also. Okay? The sound of the voices, for example. I have many interviews made in 1987 with people that already disappeared, like Aleixo Costa, for example, or
the curator of
our Central Library, and many musicians. Michael Martins, who was a very good musician, Maestro Michael Martins. So I have a lot of interviews. Now I'm digitizing all these interviews and giving them to the families, for example. It's very important for people to listen to the voice of their ancestrals now. And it will be important to have these interviews and others here in Goa, even if it is only the sound. But the sound is the presence of the body. Okay? When we have the picture is the body reduced. But when we listen the sound of someone who is not here anymore, it's like the body is present, because the sound of the voice is the body. So I think it will be important to have a sound archive here in Goa, registering all this music events we have here. We are now studying also the discs, and we have a...
Which disc?
The 78 RPM discs. We have
produced in Goa or
produced,
related to Goa?
Yes, related to Goa. We have a project in my university called Liber Sound that connects Goa with Mozambique, with Portugal, and with Brazil, to study the circulation of musicians through the radio and the discs, the shellac discs.
Shellac.
Yeah. And it is incredible, the information that we are taking from the discs, because the 78 RPM discs, the shellac discs, were produced between 1900 and 1975 here in India. In Europe, the technology stopped in 1949, 1950. And but when we have a disc, okay, what we have there? We have the music, of course, but then we have the name of the song. We have the name of the lyricist, the name of the composer, the name of the performer, the name of the group, the name of the leader of the group. So we have a lot of information in a disc. So it's time to start researching all these musicians and the musicians, not only the musicians, the places where music was performed in the past, because it is also important, the institutions, the leaders, the composers, the lyricists, all these things related with theater, related with mandol, related with other kind of music, including art music, because we had important composers here related to Western art music. And also the Hindu context, not only the Catholic context, but also the Hindu context.
What you said was so important, so I didn't want to interrupt you, and it's a very important roadmap for Goa to think of. One last question. You had this plan for a directory of Goan, what was that? A directory of Goan music?
No, the Goan Encyclopedia of Music and Musicians.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a long-term plan on...
It's a long-term plan. We already started. Now with this project Liber Sound, we are also including Mozambique, because we have a lot of music recorded in Mozambique by Goans. Actually, the Radio Mozambique and also discs. You see that here in All India Radio we have 447 discs of shellac discs. recorded with Konkani music, recorded in Bombay, but by Goans. In Portugal, we have 26 discs from Goa.
Yeah.
But in Mozambique, the Radio Mozambique, they have 25,000 discs, not on Goa, of course.
Yeah.
There has 1,000 discs, shellac discs, and within these discs, 2,500 are on Portuguese music, and some of them have also Goans.
I see.
But more important, in Mozambique, they have magnetic tapes with music from Goa, musicians from Goa that were in Mozambique. You know that there are many Goans were living in Mozambique, and they have a lot of recordings on Goan music, much more than we have here in All India Radio.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So we cannot think, that Goa is not only this place in India.
It's an island, though.
Yeah, Goa is not only this place in India, it's also the diaspora of Goans all around the world. And there's many places around the world there when we have Goans making music. And in the past also. So all these registries need to be connected in order to know the circulation of Goan musicians and how the soundscape of Goa also had an important role in the construction of the soundscape of other places, like Mozambique, like Dubai, like Canada, all
That's
over the
amazing.
world.
That's amazing, and there's so much that you've told us. So I don't think we are unfortunately running out of time. But even however much of time we spend, you have spent a lifetime of yours working on this, and it's so insightful and so helpful for us to understand what work yet remains to be done and what job we should take up on our side. Thank you so much, Dr. Susanna, for all this. It's really nice to know you over the years and to have you here and to know your work, and we'll keep following you. Thank you.
Thank you to you, Frederick.